Out of all the vehicles Cadillac has produced the past 15 years, including the ATS, CTS, Escalade, CT4, and CT5e Blackwing, it's the Cadillac XT4 that can truly compete with the Germans. Now, the luxury subcompact crossover market is a bit interesting in the US because a lot of buyers prefer models the size of the XT5, the BMW X3, the Audi Q5. But in this market under $50,000, the XT4 is holding its own against the Mercedes-Benz GLA, GLB, BMW X1, and Audi Q3. And in today's video, we're going to check out what the 2025 XT4 Sport has to offer. Now, sadly, this model is facing extinction because GM is focusing on EVs. I personally think this is going to be a big mistake, and we're going to find out in this video. So before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Colonial Cadillac in Woburn, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the XT4. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Cadillac inventory. To further expound upon the fact that the XT4 might be axed from the lineup, for 2025 there's only two trims, the Premium Luxury and the Sport. So no more Lux trim. You're not getting an XT4 under $40,000 these days, which I don't think a lot of you will be complaining about because it seems like most buyers in this market are looking for well-equipped models, and that's what the Sport trim is all about. Because with this model, not only are you getting the creature comforts and amenities, you're also getting adaptive dampers. And we'll talk about this later on when we take the XT4 out for a quick test drive. In regards to pricing between the two trims, you're looking at a starting cost of right around $42,000 with the Premium Luxury and $43,000 with the Sport. So I would say spend the extra $1,000 and go with the Sport because you're receiving a lot more here with this model, not only aesthetically, but also in regards to the driving experience as well. Now, I do want to point out one thing though, is that if you do go with the Sport and you want to go with all-wheel drive, that will tack on about $2,000. So if you don't live in a colder climate, front-wheel drive should be more than adequate. Now, for 2025 though, it's all about the exterior appearance of the XT4, and I think this model now looks classier and more upscale than the pre-facelifted model. So up front, you are going to notice that Cadillac is starting to integrate some EV-like aesthetics to the front fascia. You see that with the thinner LED headlights that make their way into that front grille design. And with this being a Sport, you will have the gloss black trim for that grille and also the lower portion of the front bumper, giving you a nice classy two-toned appearance to this model. Now, the gloss black also makes its way along the side profile and wheel arches, then of course outlining the windows, and you will have some gloss black roof rails tying everything together to this model. What I also like too is the mesh grille design, taking elements from both the new Escalade and XT5 and XT6. So it definitely has this nice road presence to it that a lot of luxury subcompacts are just not going to offer. For me though, with Cadillac the past 5 years or so, I love the LED headlight design. The way it has that waterfall effect arching over the front fenders, I love that touch. And to me, that is one thing that is pushing this brand forward, whether it is their full gas-powered models or the new EV products that are coming out right now. Then making your way over to the side profile, you are going to receive 18-inch alloy wheels, which do come standard for the XT4 Sport, but you can upgrade to 20s if you so desire. Personally, I think that if you are looking for a comfortable daily driver for you and your family, the 18s would be the optimal choice. Now, you're also going to notice the body color match side mirror caps with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, there is one minor aesthetic cue that I really like about the XT4 Sport, and that's the clear LED headlight housings, which is a nice touch, and you don't typically see this anymore in the automotive industry. It's a unique look to this model in a segment where most vehicles aren't really the best looking, I have to say, at around $40,000 to $50,000. Also, just like up front, you have this cascading waterfall effect with the LED headlights that I absolutely love, and it's a nice classy touch for a vehicle at this price point. For the lower portion of the rear bumper, you are going to notice some gloss black trim once again, but also this metallic gloss gray accent that will outline the dual exhaust outlets. So you're not going to have that plastic cladding. This is not going to be an off-road worthy vehicle, but it is going to give you that sporty touch that you're looking for out of a crossover of this size. Taking a look under the hood for the 2025 Cadillac XT4, regardless of whether you go with the Premium Luxury or Sport, you are going to receive a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 235 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, and it is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. In regards to performance, it does fall right in line with its closest rivals in this market, such as the BMW X1, Audi Q3, and Mercedes-Benz GLA. Now, obviously, 235 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque isn't going to be a barnstormer. You're looking at 0 to 60 times at around 6 seconds, but that's more than adequate in this market for a vehicle creeping just above $40,000. More importantly for a lot of you, though, will be the fuel efficiency. If you do go with all-wheel drive, you're looking at right around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. Front-wheel drive does get better fuel economy, but just keep in mind that if you do live in an area where it snows frequently, it might not be as conducive for those winter road conditions. So all-wheel drive will most certainly be the better choice out of the two drivetrains. Hopping inside the Cadillac XT4 we have today, we're greeted by power adjustable and heated leatherette seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having 2-position memory for added convenience. Now, you can upgrade to leather upholstery, which will heighten the ownership experience of this model, make it feel like a true luxury compact crossover. Now, by going with the Sport, you're going to notice that the bolstering is more aggressive than in the premium luxury. If you're someone who likes to drive aggressively on some winding back roads, or you just want that extra support, go with the Sport. It will complement what you're looking for out of a vehicle in this market, and also complement your driving habits as well. I find these seats to be rather plush and comfortable, even though they're not leather upholstery. And honestly, what manufacturers are doing right now with their leatherette upholstery, they have come a long way. So I think you are going to like what you have here with standard equipment for the XT4 for 2025. Really though, for this model, it's all about the technology though, because you have this 33-inch curved screen with Google-based software. We're seeing a lot of this now in the automotive market. And for vehicles with conjoined screens, there's typically a lot of reflection. There's also some sun glare. One thing I have experienced here with the XT4 today, there's not a lot of it. So it's not like the BMW X1 that we have recently featured on this channel. But one thing I do like about this Cadillac experience here with the technology is that it is customizable and it does look very high quality here. So you can adjust the layout to your liking. You can go with a traditional gauge look. You can also go with your Google Maps setup. Love to see that in these vehicles at around $50,000. And then also you can go with the clean layout too. It simplifies what you see in front of you. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the most intuitive or in-depth. So it's not going to be like what you're going to find in, say, an Audi Q3 or Q5. But I do think a lot of you are definitely going to like what you have here at your disposal and your fingertips. Now, speaking about your fingertips, you are going to have this nice aggressive sport steering wheel that is leather wrapped with firm 10 and 2 positions, but also really nice 9 and 3 grips. And you will have paddle shifters on top of that. Really nice touch. Also, we have a heated leather wrap steering wheel on top of all of this. So on a cold day like today, you can be nice and warm. Now, taking a look at the infotainment system, we have gone over this a few times in the past, so I'm not going to go too in depth on Cadillac's user experience here. But the fact that they have put this in a vehicle under $50,000, and this is more of a trimmed down look that you're going to find in the Cadillac Escalade, I absolutely love that. Now, the Google-based software does go a long way compared to where we were a couple of years ago with the older GM software. And what Google-based software is now doing and giving you is a higher quality experience and also a tablet-like layout here. So you will have the widgets in front of you that you can easily access. Also, very responsive as well with it being a touchscreen. Better yet though, and unfortunately BMW no longer gives you this, you do have a rotary dial and quick access buttons to get you to different menus efficiently. And also that way you don't have to reach for that screen. I love that touch. Also, with this head unit, you will have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. So you can listen to your favorite music, you can display Google Maps and Waze. So I think a lot of you are definitely going to like what you have here. Now, also you will have the ability to access your climate control settings as well from the screen. Or, and this is great to see, you have physical buttons for that dual zone climate control and also the heated front seats. So you still have the tactile and analog layout here with the XT4 for 2025, and that means so much for this model. And that means a lot to the loyal customers for Cadillac. They don't want to have just touch-sensitive icons. They don't want to have those physical buttons removed. So to have that in the XT4 for 2025 should go a long way. Now, something I was not expecting today out of the XT4 is your camera systems. You have a rear backup camera, but also a front-facing camera, an overhead view, and a side view, but it gets even better. You have a 3D view with the XT4 Sport. Now, I do know that some manufacturers are starting to integrate this in their vehicles under $50,000, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but to see this as standard equipment for the Sport, that will most certainly impress a lot of you, but also help out a lot of you if you do live in cities or you store your vehicle in a garage. You have plenty of visibility when backing in and out of spots, but also when you are parking on city streets, you will not be scuffing those wheels or backing into a parked car. So I think a lot of you are definitely going to like that. For the center console itself, you will find a USB-C and USB-A outlet, also a 12-volt outlet as well, and a storage compartment for a smartphone. Next, that row your dial will be buttons for your traction control on and off button, your auto start stop, and then your drive mode selector. So with the Sport, you will be able to go through different drive modes, such as off-road, tour, and sport. So I think a lot of you will be in sport most of the time here with this model. I think it will give you more feedback and enjoyment on those longer road trips and daily commutes. Then for the center storage compartment, you will have a cubby for your smartphone. Now, like I said before, we don't have a wireless phone charging pad on our model, but that's where it would be placed if you did have that equipped on your XT4. In regards to the storage compartment, though, plenty of room for smaller items, such as a couple smartphones, wallets, or tech gadgets. Then to round out the front seating area, for our model, we do have the optional panoramic moonroof, which will bring in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now, moving on to the second row, passengers in the second row will have right around 39.5 inches of legroom, which is one of the best in this segment. A lot of luxury subcompact crossovers are not conducive for larger families, which is why so many Americans tend to go with the BMW X3, Audi Q5, Lexus RX 350, because they want that interior space. Don't let the exterior dimensions of the XT4 fool you. With the interior, it is rather spacious. Now, as you can probably tell, I do look a bit cramped here because I adjusted this seat all the way back and it's somewhat on a recline, but I have about an inch or two of legroom remaining, so it's not too bad back here. Also, even with the optional panoramic moonroof, it doesn't take away from headroom either, so I don't think taller passengers will be hitting their head on the headliner. That's a win-win for a vehicle in this market. So you can have those creature comforts and not sacrifice that interior space. Now, I do think, though, that just like every other luxury subcompact crossover in this market, it will be quite the squeeze trying to fit in a third person in the center, especially with the aggressive center hump, but also the lack of width for the XT4. So if you're looking for a more family-friendly option in the Cadillac lineup, go with the XT5 at the very least, or possibly the XT6. But if you're looking for a vehicle at around $50,000 or below that, the XT4 is giving you everything you could possibly want in a luxury subcompact crossover. Now, our model does have two center-mounted air vents, a USB-C and USB-A outlet, and also, since we do have the climate package, we have heated outboard seats. A nice touch for this model. So I think everyone should be comfortable in the XT4 year-round. Then to round out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time, take a look at the rear cargo area. With the Sport, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 22.5 cubic feet of room, which is more than respectable out of a luxury subcompact crossover of this size. This would be better than the Mercedes-Benz GLA and most certainly on par with the BMW X1 and Audi Q3. Now, keep in mind, though, that for a vehicle of this size, it will mimic more of a hatchback-like design for that rear cargo area. I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem. So that's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And there's still more room to stack on other items as well. So if you are going on a road trip with the family, you could easily store probably 6 or 7 bags of luggage back here with limited issues. Better yet, with the XT4, you will have a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. As I talked about earlier on in this video, the Cadillac XT4's future isn't looking too promising or bright, with GM focusing on EVs, bringing back the Bolt. And it makes sense from GM's perspective, but not really for Cadillac. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, but Mike, you'd prefer going with the XT5, XT6, and then of course the Cadillac Escalade. But in this market, there's not a lot of luxury subcompacts that are going to wow you or impress you. Now, obviously with BMW, you get a sportier experience with the X1. Audi, you have the technology with the Q3, and then Mercedes-Benz, they're a bit iffy with the GLA and GLB, most because the GLA is a bit too small in my opinion, and then the GLB is a box, so it makes sense that the XT4 is outselling those two vehicles. But Volvo has completely taken over this market, as I talked about in prior reviews for SUVs in this segment, and it's mostly because with Volvo you're getting a luxurious and upscale experience. With the Cadillac XT4, it's not necessarily one-dimensional. This is not going to be a boring crossover. It's not going to be overly luxurious. And thankfully, it's not going to be sedated. Now, with this Turbo 4, it is quite potent. 235 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque is going to be right in line with its closest rivals. I will say that the 9-speed isn't my favorite in this market, but it's going to be more than sufficient for an SUV that you're going to be driving around in city and suburb situations, and then also getting on the highway and passing slower drivers. For me though, with this generation and for this facelift, it's all about the technology, the conjoined 33-inch screen, also the Google-based software, and one thing for me that I am really impressed with for the XT4 is the interior quality and refinement. Some people will disagree with me on that, but for a vehicle under $50,000, I find these seats to be very supportive, they're comfortable, the bolstering is on point for a daily driver, and then also the suspension, the adaptive dampers, this is the way to go. I'm currently in sport mode, and this would typically be the mode I would be in at all times, and it's not too aggressive, it's not going to weigh you down on a longer drive, and also it's not going to be a drive mode where the engine is going to be very audible or the gear shifts are going to be very aggressive. This is still a luxury crossover at the end of the day. One thing I do like though that impressed me immediately, whether I was in tour mode or sport, is the decently weighted steering. I don't expect that out of a Cadillac. Cadillac typically gives you some lighter steering, and American manufacturers have never given you a vehicle that feels Grand Tourer-like, sporty, or dynamic. The XT4, in my opinion, bucks that trend. And I think I'm probably saying that because we had the adaptive dampers, we have this sportier experience here, but even with those adaptive dampers, the suspension is tuned quite softly, so you'll be able to go over the bumps and imperfections without having to feel those jolts or getting thrown around. So I think a lot of you are definitely going to like that. For me though, with the XT4, for a vehicle of this size and in its class, the seat positioning is phenomenal because you sit pretty high up in this model. A lot of luxury subcompacts feel like lifted hatchbacks. The XT4, not so much. Now, in regards to overall vision, to further complement the seat positioning, you have aggressive A-pillars, which should create some blind spots when you are approaching intersections or red lights, but you still have a panoramic view here. Then taking a look at your side mirrors, they are decently sized. I can see what's in my blind spots and in the lane next to me. And then looking out back, thanks to the XT4's hatchback-like rear fascia, I can see what's directly behind me. So a lot of vision here in the XT4. More importantly though, with the XT4 is the interior insulation. Now, obviously for a vehicle at around $50,000, it is not going to be the most isolated feel being behind the wheel, but it is going to be more than adequate for a vehicle at around $50,000. Also, like I said before, this Turbo 4 doesn't drone too much. Now, it does make some noise under heavier accelerations, and you will notice some turbo lag, but that's to be expected for a crossover at around $50,000. So let's get on the highway here. Let's experience what the XT4 has to offer at highway speeds. I will say though that in the corners there is a lot of body roll here, so the lack of a sports unit suspension is really going to hold this vehicle back from a performance standpoint. Now obviously with 0 to 60 times being around 6 seconds, this is not going to be the fastest vehicle out there, and I would love to see a stronger Turbo 4 out of the XT4, but that will never happen if the XT4 isn't going to make it to another generation. But I do think though that with this power band, you'll have no problems passing slower drivers or changing lanes. At highway speeds, road noise is a bit more audible here, but nothing too different than what I've experienced from competitors. All in all though, with the XT4, I would love to see Cadillac continue this model. I think it's a huge mistake dropping it out of the lineup, not only because this is an affordable option for buyers looking for a luxury experience, but also the XT4 is not getting outsold by its closest rivals. Now obviously, you have about a 2,000 unit difference between the X1 and the XT4, and then the Q3 is at around 20,000 units this year so far. But the XT4 is outselling the Mercedes-Benz products. What does that tell you? This is a competitive vehicle in its segment. And when you take a look at the pricing, under $50,000, you're getting an SUV that does feel rather nice and upscale, and that's helped out with the technology. So if there's any Cadillac executives watching this video, don't drop the XT4. It's too early for that. It's too early to go all in on the EVs. I think you're making a huge mistake here at $40,000 to start. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2025 Cadillac XT4. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.